What would you do if the first face you saw after waking from a coma was the girl who once swore she hated you? The world came back to me in fragments. First, the beeping sharp, steady, too close. Then the sterile bite of disinfectant. White walls, thin sheets. The weight of a body that wasn't quite mine anymore. I blinked against the brightness. My throat was dry, like I'd swallowed sand. My tongue felt heavy, useless, and then her face. The first thing I saw wasn't a doctor or a nurse or my family. It was her. Avery Sterling, the girl who made my teenage years hell. The queen of icy smiles, cruel remarks whispered in hallways. Sharp heels clicking on tiled floors like a countdown to humiliation. And now she was sitting at my bedside. Her blonde hair, once always perfect, was messy strands sticking out, like she'd been running her hands through it for hours. Her expensive blazer was wrinkled, her makeup smudged. And her eyes, those steel gray eyes that used to slice through me like glassware, red-rimmed, raw, as if she'd been crying. Crying, for me, it didn't make sense. None of us did. My lips parted, my voice scraped out like broken glass. Why are you here? Her head snapped up. For a moment she froze. Then her lips trembled into a smile I'd never seen before, hesitant, fragile, almost human. Jordan, she whispered, her voice cracking on my name. You're awake. I frowned, my head pounding. What? What's going on? You've been in a coma, she said softly, leaning closer. For almost a year. Her words crashed into me like cold water. A year of lost time. My chest tightened, panic clawing at my ribs. I tried to sit up, but my body betrayed me, weak, trembling, tethered to tubes and machines. Her hand shot out, steadying me. The same Avery Sterling who once laughed when I tripped in the cafeteria now held me like I might break. Don't, I croaked, glaring at her touch. Don't touch me. Something flickered and her eyes hurt. But she pulled back, folding her hands neatly in her lap like she'd just been scolded. The silence stretched. The monitors beeped. My pulse raced. Finally I rasped, Why are you here? Where's my family? My friends? Why you? She exhaled, shoulders sagging as if she'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times and still didn't know how to play it. Because her voice wavered. She met my gaze with a steadiness that both infuriated and unnerved me. I'm your wife. The words detonated in the room. I blinked at her, certain I misheard. Your what? She swallowed, hard, clasping her hands tighter. Your wife, legally. A laugh tore out of me, hoarse, bitter, unbelieving. Very funny. You hated me in school, Avery. You made my life miserable. There's no universe where I'd ever marry you. Her jaw tightened. It wasn't like that. Really? Because my memories beg to differ? Her eyes softened, but her voice sharpened. Jordan, listen to me. While you were in a coma, the hospital was going to cut off your care. Your insurance, it ran out. You had no one else. And she faltered, pressing her lips together. Before continuing, I signed the papers. It was the only way to protect you. To keep you alive. Her confession left me reeling. You married me? To save me? Yes. Her voice cracked again. It was the only way. I turned away, staring at the ceiling, my mind a storm of disbelief, anger, and something far more dangerous, confusion. This was Avery Sterling, the girl who once smirked while calling me second best in front of the entire debate team. The girl who thrived on my failures. And now she was sitting at my bedside claiming to be my wife, claiming she saved me. It was absurd, but then I remembered the redness in her eyes, the way her hand trembled when she reached for me, the raw edge in her voice when she said my name. And for the first time, I wondered, had I been wrong about her all along? Hours later, when the nurses left and the room felt quiet, she was still there. I couldn't look at her. My chest ached too much. My head spun with too many questions. But I couldn't stop listening to the sound of her breathing. Steady, present, relentless. Finally, I whispered into the dim light, Why me? Why would you do this for someone you hated? There was a pause. A long one. And then her answer slipped through the dark like a confession she'd buried for years. I never hated you, Jordan, she said softly. I was jealous of you, of how bright you were, of how much space you took up in a room. I hated myself for wanting what I couldn't have. My breath caught. The air thickened, wanting. I turned my head slowly, meeting her gaze. And for the first time in years, Avery Sterling didn't look like the girl who hated me. She looked like a woman who wanted me. She never hated me. Then what exactly was she doing with my name on her mouth all those years? The afternoon dimmed to that hospital twilight where the blinds hold the sun in thin gray lines, and time becomes a hallway with no doors. Machines hummed. Footsteps passed and dissolved. Across from me, Avery sat in a chair too small for a woman who used to stride through boardrooms like a weather system. Tell me everything, I said at last, my voice steadier now, even if my hands were not. Start with why the girl who called me second best is wearing my ring. Avery's gazed up to my left hand taped IV, bruised knuckles, a thin gold band that glowed like a dare. She didn't reach for it. She didn't even blink. I'll start with a part you already know, she said. High school. The word tasted like old dust and cheap perfume. We were back in fluorescent light and scuffed linoleum, lockers, slamming like punctuation, the echo of sneakers and gossip ricocheting down the hall. Debate team trophies watched us from a glass case cold, gleaming witnesses. Affirmative to the House, universities should forgive debt for public service. I'd argued, hands alive, heart brighter than my blazer would ever be. My words had landed, clean and ripe. The judge smiled. I won. After I found Avery at the water fountain, tilting her head so her hair fell just so, a stun of indifference. Second best, she'd said lightly when I walked past, not loud enough for anyone else, just for me. But you always look like you're enjoying it. I'd pretended the barb didn't land. I pretended a lot of things. What I didn't. See then, the way she watched me under her lashes at practice. The way her pen hovered when I spoke, not to downplay, but to memorize. The way she leaned on cruelty because softness terrifies the people who can't afford it. Senior year, at a graduation party that smelled like cola and wet lawn, we ended up alone on a back stairwell that knew too many secrets. Music thumped through the wall. I was halfway through a sentence I don't remember when she cut the distance between us with one unapologetic step. You make me insane, she'd said, no smirk, no performance. Just the truth, bare and reckless. Her hand had twitched like it wanted my shoulder and then thought better of trying. You win like you're breathing, and you lose like you're auditioning for a tragedy, I'd shot back. Because 16-year-old me thought what could save me. We hovered. Close, too close. The kind of close where breath learns to whisper and a mouth forgets whether it arrived to argue or to end an argument. Then someone opened the door and laughter spilled through and the spell broke and the stairwell kept our almost quiet and permanent. I didn't know how to want you without hurting you, Avery said. Now, back in the hospital room where the air smelled like sanitizer and confessions. So I chose the hurt. I told myself I was protecting my position, my image, my everything. And you were, I said, sharper than I meant to. Protecting you. Yes, she admitted. Even when I shouldn't have. Her hands twisted once, a habit I remembered from the days she used to pretend she wasn't nervous. Fast forward, I said. The Coma. Her throat moved. A year ago, I was leaving a board dinner when Claire, your friend, called the office. She didn't have your parents' numbers. She didn't have yours, just the main line from an old resume. She was crying. She said there had been an accident, flash, headlights whiting out rain. A skidding sound my body remembered before my mind did. Then nothing. Then beeping and this room and her face. I went to the hospital, she continued, voice low. I told myself I was just checking. I signed in as a visitor. I was going to leave a note and vanish. You don't leave. Notes, I said, a smile I didn't authorize tugging at my mouth. You leave edits. Touché, she murmured. But they were already talking about transferring you to a long-term facility that would have cut your care down to maintenance. She said the word like it offended her grammar. Insurance was a fight. Your emergency contact list had gaps big enough to lose a life in. The only way to keep you here under this team, in this ward, was to assign someone legal authority. It started as medical power of attorney. But when the bills escalated and we had to renegotiate payment plans, the administrators kept hitting a wall. I could sign as your wife. It moved mountains that wouldn't move for friend. You forged a life, I said, and my voice was steadier than my pulse, to save mine. I asked the court for an emergency union, she said, eyes on mine, not blinking, not hiding. It's a legal relic. People use it when time is a thief, and the only way to keep someone is to catch the law looking the other way. Claire was there. She signed as witness. She told me if I hurt you again, she would burn my office down and salt the earth. That sounds like Claire, I said. and something in me loosened at the thought of her, feral and loyal. Avery reached into a neat folder and pulled out photocopies, stamps, signatures, dates that lined up like a timeline trying to apologize for itself. My name and hers on a line where there should have been white. There were nights, she said softly, setting the papers where I could see them. I sat right there and read to you because the nurse said hearing can be a rope. I read from whatever I had, briefs, badly written emails, the back of a cereal box. Once, I read your senior thesis because Claire found it, mailed it to me with a note that said maybe this will make you less unbearable. I fell asleep with my head on this bed rail enough times to know every nick in it. Silence swelled, warm and unbearable. Say you did it out of guilt, I said, needing to hear it ugly. Say you did it because you couldn't stand to let the world see you lose mercy too. I did it because the night of the graduation party stairwell never stopped living in my bones, she said, and the sentence lit every nerve I had. And because I discovered there are worse things than the world knowing what you want. Like the world knowing and you doing nothing. The monitor beside me tattled on my heart. Beep beep brighter. She heard it. She looked at the monitor, and then at my mouth, and then away, as if saving both of us from a gravity neither of us had the strength to fight yet. Your family? I asked, reaching for safer ground and finding thorns anyway. Your mom sent a letter at month 2, Avery said quietly. Claire answered it. Your dad? She searched for a gentle word and failed with dignity. Claire. Handled him. The old ache rolled through me and then rolled on. So I had 2 people, I said. Claire and my wife. Legally, she said. Then the bravest thing, and also not just legally, my mouth went dry. Don't do this here. I'm doing this here because here is where we started again, she said. And because if I have to watch you leave this room someday and not know that I at least tried. She stopped, teeth catching her bottom lip, then released it with a soft, devastating focus. I regret it the way I regret handing your name to the wolves. I stared at the ceiling until the dots behind my eyelids stopped pulsing. When I looked back, Avery had shifted closer but still out of reach. A lesson learned. Okay, I said. Say I believe you. Say I let myself consider that the girl who called me second best married me to keep me breathing. I lifted my hand a fraction. The 4 tugged. What now? Her exhale came out like a door sighing open. Now we do the slow, unglamorous work of, I prompted because I wanted to hear the words in her voice, of being married on purpose, she said, or dissolving it on purpose. Your call of rehab, of paperwork we both hate, of me stepping back when you need space and stepping up when you need spine, of building something that's not about fear. Her mouth softened into something I'd never seen on her, not on any. Podium, the shelter proposal you wrote junior year. I still have it. I want to fund it. I want to put your name on the door and mine on the check and our hands on the paint. You remember that? I asked, caught between a laugh and a sob. I printed it on a library printer with a line of freshmen behind me sighing. I remember the typo on page 3, she said, wicked and tender all at once. You used principle where you meant principle and then defended it like you meant to. It was a rhetorical flourish, I protested, because muscle memory is quicker than caution. It was adorable, she countered, and the word hung there, impossible and correct. Don't call me adorable in a hospital gown, I said, hearing the flirt slide into the room before I could barricade the door. I won't, she said. I'll call you unstoppable. In whatever you wear, especially when you're biting me with grammar. Heat climbed my neck. I looked away, found the window and the city beyond it, blurred into silver by afternoon. When I looked back, Avery's gaze hadn't moved. It held me in that patient way, hungry, yes, but disciplined. Now, the storm trained to fall where it waters and not where it drowns. Boundaries, I said, because wanting without scaffolding had built us a cathedral of almosts and a graveyard of afterward. If we keep this thing. I gestured vaguely at the band, the papers, the space between our mouths. No surprises. No midnight speeches to the press. No decisions about my life without asking me first. Yes, she said immediately. And for me, if you need to run, you tell me you're running. I won't chase. I hate chasing. You love chasing, I corrected. Her smile flickered. I loved winning. There's a difference. Is there? I asked. There can be, she said. I breathed. In, out. The machine approved. Ask me one more thing, she said suddenly, voice dropping like a curtain. Ask me what happened the night of your accident. My fingers stiffened against the blanket. Why would I? Because I was the last person you called, she said, and the room went brutally still. Your phone rang on my desk. I didn't answer. I told myself I'd call back after the vote. The beeping raced. The blinds breathed. The bed felt like a raft. What would it have changed? I whispered. Maybe nothing, she said. Maybe everything. But I carry it. We sat there under that weight, watching it decide whether to crush us. At last, I nodded once, the smallest absolution I had in me. Okay, I said. Then we carry it together. Slowly. Slowly, she echoed. And Avery? I added, because I needed one thing that wasn't a wound. If we ever repaint a wall together, and you pick eggshell because it sounds expensive, I reserve the right to change it to cloud when you leave the room. She blinked, startled into joy. You're going to let me leave the room? Sometimes, I said, and sometimes I'm going to drag you into stairwells and finish senior year properly. The way her breath caught it put color back in the world. Not here, I warned, because the monitor would tell on me. No, she said, sitting back, disciplined even as her eyes betrayed her. Not here. A nurse poked her head in. With the soft force of a person who has knocked on 1,000 thresholds. How are we feeling? She asked. Complicated, I said. Vital signs agree. She smiled. You've got visitors at 5, physical therapy at 6. And whoever keeps sneaking espresso into this ward owes me one. Avery raised both hands. Guilty. Of course, the nurse said, amused. The wife. We were quiet until the door closed. Then Avery looked at me, waiting for me to flinch at the word and bracing for impact. I didn't. Not this time. Stay until 5, I said. Tell me the part of the story where you learned how to make coffee the night shift actually likes. She exhaled, relief, and something braver. It involves a bribery ring and a cappuccino machine that technically belongs to cardiology. Scandal, I murmured, letting my eyes close for a second because for the first time since waking, the dark behind my lids felt like rest and not drowning. Start there. She did. And as her voice moved through the room, low and careful, I realized that healing might sound like this. The enemy you misnamed, reading you back into yourself one page at a time. What's harder, learning to walk again? Or learning to trust the woman who once broke you? The first time I stood up, my legs betrayed me. The physical therapist braced my elbows, her voice soft but commanding. Wait forward, Jordan. You don't need grace, you need gravity. Easier said than done when your muscles feel like wires left out in the rain. Every step was rebellion. Every inch a reminder how far I'd fallen. And yet, when I glanced up, Avery was there. She wasn't allowed inside the therapy room. Rules, they said. But through the glass partition, her hand pressed to the window like she could push strength through it. Her lips moved, silent words I read without effort. I'm here. It did something ugly and beautiful to me. My knees steadied. My spine remembered itself. One step, then 2, until the world blurred and the therapist muttered, well, damn, I guess someone's motivated. When I finally collapsed back into the chair, breath ragged, Avery was still at the glass. And for a moment, I wasn't walking toward health. I was walking toward her. Later that week, the press found out, they always do. Jordan Hay returns from Coma with surprise wife Avery Sterling. The headline burned across every feed. Reporters swarmed the hospital entrance, microphones thrust forward like weapons. They shouted my name, her name, words like fake marriage and PR stunt. I froze in the hallway, my breath stuttering. The past threatened to swallow me again, headlines, judgment, whispers, but Avery stepped forward. Her heels clicked on the linoleum like they were made for war. She faced the crowd with steel in her spine and fire in her voice. You want a story? She snapped. Here's the truth. Jordan is alive because she fought harder than anyone I've ever seen. And if you want to question why I married her, go ahead. Question me, but don't you dare question her. The cameras flashed. The crowd hushed. For once, she wasn't protecting her empire, she was protecting me. And I hated how much I wanted to kiss her for it. Days bled into weeks. My steps grew steadier. My hands remembered strength. The nurses began talking about discharge, about home, except what was home now? An apartment I hadn't seen in a year, a bed that no longer felt like mine, a marriage that was half paperwork, half storm. The answer came from Avery in the form of a blueprint she spread across my tray table one evening. "This," she said, tapping the page, "is the shelter, your shelter." The lines were rough but promising. Dormitory wings, common kitchens, counseling rooms, a children's play space. A whole building repurposed into hope. I traced the pencil marks with my finger, my throat thick. "You kept it, of course I kept it," her voice softened. "It was the only thing you ever showed me that wasn't about winning. It was about saving. I couldn't forget it." Her eyes locked on mine, gray and endless. "Let me build. It with you, Jordan, not for you. With you." The word with landed like a key in a lock I hadn't realized was waving. 2 days later, I stepped outside for the first time since waking. The therapy garden behind the hospital stretched green and gold in the afternoon sun. The air smelled like lilacs and cut grass. My walker clinked on the stone path, but my eyes weren't on the flowers. They were on Avery, waiting at the far end of the garden. She wasn't in a suit today. Just jeans, a white blouse, her hair pulled back loose, vulnerable, accessible, almost ordinary. And yet when her gaze found mine, my chest tightened as if she'd stolen all the air and left me the ache. I made my way toward her, slow but stubborn. Step by step, the distance shrank. "You're early," she teased when I reached her bench. "I wanted the sun before it changed its mind," I said. We sat in silence for a moment, the garden wrapping us in green. Her shoulder brushed mine, deliberate or not, I couldn't tell, but I didn't move away. "You're staring," I murmured after a while. "I've been staring for years," she confessed quietly. The words sent heat flooding through me. I turned, our faces inches apart. Her eyes were steady, her mouth soft, waiting. For a second, the world tilted. The beeping machines, the lawyers, the headlines, all of it fell away. There was just sunlight, her lips, and the memory of a stairwell years ago. I leaned closer. She did too. And then, the therapist's voice cut through the air. "Time's up, Jordan, back inside." The moment snapped like glass. We pulled apart, breathless, pretending nothing happened. That something had died because now I knew she wanted me. And worse so did I. What's riskier, signing a contract for a building? Or letting her sign her name across your ribs? 2 weeks after the garden almost kiss, my discharge papers crinkled like new skin in my hands. The wheelchair rolled over the threshold, and the doors hissed open like a stage curtain rising. The world rushed in sun, exhaust, chatter, 1,000. Colors that didn't exist in hospital white. Avery was there. Not with a limo or a headline. With a battered hatchback she'd borrowed from Claire. "Humility looks good on you," Claire had texted her. I'd laughed out loud. To travel. Mugs and a playlist she swore was scientifically engineered to keep me from crying. It didn't work. The first song wrecked me. Her hand found the back of my seat, warm, steady, not pushing, just shadowing me like a spotter. "Home?" she asked. "Not yet," I said. "Show me the building?" Her smile flashed, feral and relieved. She drove. The old textile warehouse looked like a dare someone had graffitied with sunlight. Red brick, cracked windows, ivy that had learned how to pronounce the word insist. A chain-link fence guarded it badly. Inside, dust motes floating like confetti in cathedral air, pillars thick as tree trunks. A stairwell that groaned secrets. You could hear the past, hear machines, laughter, over time. You could also hear the future if you stood still long enough, footsteps that arrived without fear. Quiet, a kettle, a lullaby hummed off key. Avery let me set the pace. She didn't steer, didn't narrate, didn't sell. She just walked beside me, hands in pockets, as if she trusted the building to do its own pitch. I stopped in the center of the main floor and closed my eyes. When I opened them, the room had rearranged itself in my head, bunks along the south wall, a circle of blue chairs for group nights, shelves of donated coats, a small stage for job fairs and poetry, a corner where coffee could be both ritual and rite. "Kitchen here," I said, pointing. "Open, not tucked away. Food shouldn't be ashamed of being needed." I pivoted. "Counseling rooms there, soft light, 2 exits so no one feels trapped. Storage behind." And I hesitated. Then I said the thing I'd wanted to say since junior year. "A nursery. With a window lower than adult eye level, so kids can see the world without being picked up." Avery looked at me like I just invented flight. "Yes," she said simply, "all of it." A contractor appeared, hard hat, tablet, a grin that said he'd been told to expect a shark and found a school teacher wielding ordinances instead. We measured, argued, scribbled. I corrected the egress width. Avery negotiated down a line item with a smile that could soften concrete. He left promising revised numbers by morning. We stood alone in the dust again. The light had shifted, gold and shameless. I leaned against a pillar. My legs had opinions. Avery hovered a breath away, not touching. Front row for the show of my breath. You're dangerous when you're right, she said. I'm more dangerous when I think I'm right, I shot back, and we both smiled in the way that felt like recognition. She unfolded a small packet from her pocket paint chips fanned like secret passwords. I prepared for this. I skimmed hues with names trying too hard. Urban Dom, Larkwing, Stormhush. No, Eggshell. Absolutely not, she said. Solemn, we learned something today. I tapped one called Clementine Tea for the kitchen, and one called Quiet Sky for the dorm hall. Avery nodded like I'd passed an exam she wanted me to write. We were still laughing about a shade called Influencer Beige when my body betrayed me. It started small, a tremor at the base of my spine, a hitch in my ribs. Then the room cinched. The dust went from glitter to smoke. The door felt too far. The old hallway smell, the exact kind of old hallway my accident had ended encircled like a shark. I grabbed the pillar. Breath wouldn't try. Hey. Her voice was a hand that knew my name, not panicked, not pitying. Jordan here with me. She lowered herself in front of me, making her body smaller, her presence larger. 4 things, she said calmly, like we were back in debate and she had numbers to burn. Find 4 things you can see. I blinked at her. Fury at my own lungs made my eyes sting. Avery, 4, she said, not moving. Trust me for 10 seconds. I dragged my gaze around. Blue paint chip, your ridiculous shoelace, the exit sign, dust in a sunbeam. Good, she said, and her exhale taught my body how. 3 things you can touch. Pillar, my stupid knee, your sleeve. Her mouth didn't move, but her eyes did. 2 things you can hear. Your voice, I said immediately, then swallowed. The street outside. 1 thing you can smell. You, I said before I could stop myself. Like cedar, coffee, and rain. She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them, as if the world had settled. See, you don't need grace. You need gravity. I laughed, finally exhaling. Plagiarist. Get me sued, she said, sitting back, still keeping my knees in her peripheral vision. I'll settle out of court with espresso. We stayed like that, the world quieter around us. Then the heat hit me, embarrassment and something more. Do not apologize, she warned, as if reading my thoughts. I wasn't going to, I lied. Good, she said, standing, offering a hand. I took it. Her palm was warm, calloused. We returned to work. Late, we built a whiteboard from a door and 2 sawhorses. Tasks in block letters, budget caveats in fine print. Our hands brushed too often. I pretended not to notice at 9 Claire. Arrived with takeout and a look that said she tolerated this because she loved me. I won't chaperone, Claire said, setting cartons down, but I'll judge the paint names. Avery deadpanned, welcome to Influencer Beige. Claire snorted and gave her a hug. Later, Claire pulled me aside. She looks at you like she's been carrying something fragile and can finally set it down. Then louder, hurt her and I'll turn the shelter into a prison. Avery. Hands up, smiled like she deserved a second chance. After Claire left, we ate lo mein on a drop cloth. Avery rescued a noodle from escape. I laughed until my scar tugged, and Avery sobered. Does it hurt? She asked, hovering her thumb, eyes full of unspoken words. A little, I said. But I can live with it. She nodded, and we let the air cool between us. Tell me something true, I said. She looked at the rafters. I reread your senior thesis last month, twice. Why? Because I wanted to remember what you sounded like when I wasn't in the room, she said. Wanted to know if I loved you because you were brave in front of me or just brave. And you are brave when you're alone, she said. It's infuriating and magnificent. Your turn, she added. I thought of sarcastic truths, but none fit. When you walked into the therapy garden in jeans, I wanted to kiss your wrist. Silence held. She offered her wrist, pulse visible. Not here, I whispered. Not yet, she agreed. Later, an email arrived. Revised bid plus city fire egress. Variance. The price had climbed. I cursed softly. Avery read over my shoulder. Options? She asked. Cut the second staircase, I said. No, Avery said, already dialing, her voice cutting through the room like a knife. She returned, not smiling. Inspection Monday. Variance reconsidered. If we install the second stair faster than possible and let Shaw swing the sledgehammer? For a photo. Deal, I breathed, putting my hand on her shoulder. That was attractive, I said, before I could stop myself. She turned, slow, eyes locking with mine. Say it again. You will power like it's pointed in the right direction, I whispered. She smiled. Say it in my language, she murmured, and my bones did something unprofessional. Don't, I warned softly. Don't what? She asked, an inch from reckless. Make me feel what I already feel. I'm not a project, I said. You're the home my ambition forgot to build me, she replied. Not here, I said again, voice shaky. Not yet, she nodded. Then offered to drive me home. Home where? I asked. Home with me, she said. Just for tonight, I agreed. Guest room, I said, smiling. Her apartment was clean, too clean, curated. Beneath the perfection was loneliness. She led me to the guest room, where dog-eared novels sat on the nightstand. You kept these, I said, tight. Of course, she murmured. You were the only one who ever knew I liked stories more than statistics. Asterisk breakfast was perfect. Toast not burned, eggs fluffy, coffee strong. She set the plate in front of me, bowing dramatically. Tudor worth every penny. I rolled my eyes, but smiled. Don't get smug. One good omelet away from arrogance. You wound me, she said, hand pressed to her chest. She looked lighter, almost happy. And despite myself, I imagined mornings like this, not by accident, but habit. Dangerous thought. That night we faced the donor dinner. Avery glided through the crowd like she owned it, but tonight she led with me. This is Jordan Hay, she introduced, grounding me with her touch and lingering gaze. By the time the speeches ended, my body buzzed with the weight of her choosing me. On the balcony later, the city glittered below. You didn't have to do that, I whispered. Yes, I did, she said. The world blamed you once. Never. Again. Then, without warning, her mouth found mine. It wasn't desperate or reckless, just deliberate, fierce. A choice. I kissed her back dot when we broke apart, our foreheads together. I whispered, this doesn't fix the past. No, she breathed. It builds something better. For the first time, I believed her dot at the shelter's groundbreaking. The press and donors swarmed. I stood at the podium, hands trembling, but my eyes found Avery. Her gaze was steady, proud, reverent, the look of someone standing behind me, not in front. I spoke, my voice shaking at first, then steady. I told them about second chances, homes that heal, women deserving more than survival. The crowd clapped, but all I saw was her small smile, reserved for secrets. Afterward, in the unfinished lobby, Avery found me. You were extraordinary, she whispered. I almost fell apart. You didn't. You never do. Her hand brushed mine. Avery, I said, letting the silence hold us. I don't want this to be an accident of paperwork anymore. I want it to be choice. Her breath hitched. So choose me, she said softly. I did. The kiss that followed wasn't hungry, just molten and steady. Her hands framed my face like I was fragile, but her mouth told me I wasn't. Dust clung to our clothes as light fractured through unfinished windows. When we finally pulled apart, I laughed through tears. So, I really am married to the girl who hated me in school. Her smile was wicked. Correction, the girl who wanted you so badly she didn't know how to act. And now, I teased, now I just want you. No disguises, no edits, just you. The past slipped away, piece by piece. What remained was choice, heat, and the blueprint of something lasting. As the sun burned through the new glass, I realized the girl who once broke me was now the woman who would build me back, brick by brick, kiss by kiss.